Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, sim fans, race fans, RC fans. Racing 393 here again today for another video. And, well, a bit of recap. So after my last run with the Nitro car, RC10GT, we come away, a reliable run. Nice, it started, it went. We improved our speed very slightly by using the smaller spur gear. And just as you can see here, this is the sort of the engine that's in it. This is just a standard GT engine that comes with a kit. I mean, these is just it's a 0.12 engine. Nothing trick at all. So it's not by any stretch a particularly fast nitro engine, but it's so far it's been quite reliable, which is good. Now, as you can see, I've taken the pinion or the clutch drum bell, if you like. I've taken it off, so I'm going to give the shoes there a bit of a clean because they do get a bit grubby. And that was my if I can see what I'm looking at, that's my 15 tooth clutch bell. So what I have done, as you can see there next to it, I bought a 18 tooth clutch bell. So I'm going to replace that and go with a bigger pinion. I'm going to keep the spur gear that's on the car, so whatever I ended up with, I can't remember now. So the spur gear was 65 teeth, so I will work out the ratio, but it definitely, ratio's gone down, so it should in fact, hopefully give me a little bit more top speed. Very simple to work on, these engines. I'm doing this without the manual. I've got the manual upstairs and I've only briefly looked at it. So just quickly show you here, this is the clutch bell. So first off, you get the E-clip at the end, a couple of spacers, and then you've got the bearings, and that should hold it all together. I like, when I take things apart, I tend to keep them in the order they came off, just in case that you drop them or something, or you're not quite sure which way they go back on because you haven't got a manual to hand or something. So they need a little bit of a clean. I'm going to clean those bearings up. I'm going to clean, like I said, the clutch shoes up. The thing I was messing around with, what I found out, these are very sensitive to conditions, weather, outside. So the main jet, which you can see there, from memory, I'm not going to move it right now, but it's about somewhere between 2 1/4 and 2 1/2 turns out. So you screw it in because it works on a taper. So you screw it in. You don't want to screw it really tight. So you screw it in so it just sort of feels it just starting to nip and then you just count out 2 1/2. And I think I started from memory 2 1/2 turns out. I'm not sure where that is at the moment, but I will have a look and let you know. But it's very sensitive. So on the run, I was giving it a 1/4 of a turn, but in reality, it was probably a bit of my mistake. It was actually more like an 1/8, or even sometimes a 1/16. So they're very, very critical where they go, and they do make a difference. As you know, I sort of wound it in or out, and it was changing the performance of this motor. So it's not something you can just willy-nilly wind here, there, and hope for the best. You've got to know where you're starting, and you've got to know how far you've moved it to what performance gain or loss that you've experienced. So yeah. So I'll let you know what I've got that at the moment, because at least last time I ran it, it ran at that position where it is in. So I'm going to crack on, and I'll see you very shortly when I've hopefully got all this all back together, which shouldn't take me much longer than about 15 minutes. Right, I'll see you in a bit. So just worthy of notice here, really, is what I mentioned. On the inside, that's quite coarse. that sort of surface where the clutch shoes would rub against is quite coarse on an unused pinion, clutch bell. I keep saying pinion, it is a pinion and a clutch bell. And this clutch bell, which I've used, this is what I've been using, that in there is quite polished, it's quite smooth. So one of the sort of recommendations I would say is occasionally, when even if you're not changing the gearing, is take the clutch bell off and just score it up a little bit, a bit of wet and dry, or just a bit of fine, not sandpaper, but yeah, wet and dry. You can do it dry, you don't have to do it wet, just to score the surface up a little bit to give it a bit more bite. Over time it will just smooth out, because obviously spinning at the sort of rate it spins, you can see that there is obviously wear, and you can see how dirty the shoes are. So I'm going to give them a bit of a clean, and I'll score the outsides of the shoes. I think they're made of Teflon from memory, but I'll give them a good clean and just score the outside, and just get a bit more bite on the clutch when we put it back together. All right, onwards and upwards. So I'll just give them a quick wipe down. The actual surfaces of the clutch shoes are quite rough. So you can see that there, they've got where they, obviously the score marks where they sort of bite the inside of the drum. Just want to point out there that this engine to run goes in an anti-clockwise direction. So you can see that it's really important that you put the clutch shoes on the correct way. So if it spins that way round, which is basically anti-clockwise, the shoes themselves will, centrifugal forces will send them out. So you can see where the bottom one, that's how it's going to be. So the centrifugal comes out, grips the inside of the drum and gives you drive. If it's slipping, it's probably a case of getting the inside of the drum, like I said, roughed up a little bit with a bit of wet and dry, or you might need some new shoes. But I haven't scored like I said I was going to, because that feels like quite grippy. So I'll give them a bit of a wipe down and just put them back together, nice and simple. So that's all done now. I've got it's all on nicely, the circlip seated nicely. I just realised that when I put the circlip on previously, which I've been running, the circlip wasn't properly seated, which is interesting, because I could quite easily get a flathead screwdriver to peel it off. One of the most impressive things though is how much there's absolutely zero resistance there now. Even with the clutch shoes, yeah, well impressed. So that feels and looks really good. So next I'm going to put it back in the car, work out the ratio, write that down, and then we're ready to rock and roll again. It won't be any time soon because the weather looks pretty rubbish at the moment. I'll wait for it to dry up a little bit more, and well, it's actually dry today, but I haven't got time today. So I'll get back to you with the ratio and any other bits and pieces that I would like to put to you, and we'll go from there. So that's all done now. We've got the pinion on. So previously when we was running the other pinion, that's the ratio that we did have. I've now got the 18 tooth clutch bell. I know I said pinion, but you know what I mean. And 65 spur. And that gives us another new ratio to try out of 3.61. So it's quite a big difference. So we should notice with a bit of luck, a bit of extra top speed. Now, the thing with gearing, unlike an electric motor, which tends to be quite linear, doesn't it? It's quite progressive through the range. There's so many different variations with the nitro engine, and they all have their little sort of power curves at the right revs, at the right amount of mixture. So sometimes doing this may not get the same results as you would on an electric motor. But to me, it seems a lot better. One of the things I did have, and I'm going to look this up, the clutch bell seems to, it might need a little bit of adjustment there. I don't know actually. It's a secondary thing. I don't need much tighter than that actually, looking at that. But the clutch bell itself moves, it to me seems to have more end float, which I'm not too sure. I can't remember what the other one did. I don't remember it moving too much, but this one, I'm not going to get my big fat fingers in there. You can see the actual shaft's moving as well. It's not just the end. So that's the clutch. Not the clutch, the flywheel. Now, why would that move? Unless the nut inside's loose, which I didn't check, I should have done. But I'm going to look that up to see what that could be. If anyone knows what that is, let me know. If you watch this and you want me to know what your GTs are, it'd be handy to know that. But I'm quite happy that I can try that. Okay, that's got movement there. That seems too much to me. And the actual shaft's got movement as well. So I think it had that. I'm not sure, maybe I think I know. This pinion had a recess where the E-clip goes. Where the other one, sort of when it was on, was flush. But this has more of a gap, so I might need another spacer or a shim inside, because I think this movement with the flywheel has always been there that much. This bit hasn't, so that sort of makes it worse. But I'll look it up, see what I come back with. But that's the car done. So, as in, it's as much as I'm going to do before we next get it out and about. So that's the new ratio. There's the old one. We should have a difference in top speed. Remember, the top speed we're aiming for is above 39 miles an hour. So I hope you enjoyed that. Look forward to seeing you out on track, and this sooner rather than later. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye for now.